This is the Bayferrox 110 iron oxide pigment. I had 25 kilograms of it, and this is what is left. So I've used maybe like 22 kilos of it. So now it is time for a review, because I'm so well qualified to judge it since I have been using it so much. Firstly, let's look at the chemical composition. See how clean it is. Of course, when you paint, you get paint all over you. And the more I spill on my clothes, the cleaner I feel because of how incredibly clean this pigment is. It's a synthetic iron oxide pigment that is red mostly. So let's look at how to use it. So you just take your favorite binder and you mix in some pigment and you paint. And once you mix your own pigment, you never go back to buying the pre-mixed stuff. You realize that mixing your own pigment, your own paint, is a luxury experience. Because you get to decide how much pigment you want in it. And if you saturate it all the way with pigment, there is nothing outside of professional artist paint that has that kind of color quality to it. So that, for example, this planter that I showed last time. Okay, so here is that planter. Let's have a close look at the red iron oxide paint on it. That is the Bayferrox 110. And now you decide, like I said, how much pigment you want to put in it. If you put a lot of pigment in it, it gets matte. And if you don't use a lot of pigment, you can make it glossy. So you have that control. The only way to get that control yourself is to mix your own paint with your own pigment. So that's a highly recommended experience that I first did in art school with linseed oil. But it's also excellent to do for house paint and everything. You don't go back to buying the pre-mixed stuff. And of course you can mix it into any binder that you want. And it is not completely opaque, it's kind of transparent. But if you use a lot of it, it will become opaque. And it's red, but it's also kind of orange. I love it. Of course, it's because I only had one pigment, because I could only afford one, and I got a good deal on 25 kilos of this, so I just used it for everything. And I don't regret it. It is a beautiful pigment. And I have done the floor of my balcony here. That's Bayferrox 110. And the pedestal of my cherry tree, which is in a planter, which is not painted red, but the base of it, I mean the pedestal here, that's Bayferrox 110. And I have another planter here that is painted Bayferrox 110. And the floor, like I said. So I've been using a lot of Bayferrox. And also these planters here are Bayferrox 110. And also the floor they're sitting on. But that's only a tiny little bit of pigment. So then you can see what happens if you use just a little bit, as opposed to 100% on the planter. And my cat is there. And this, like I said, It's just a tiny little bit of pigment, like just a little, like maybe 2 grams of it for that whole piece of floor here. So it goes a long way, actually, yeah. But I've also used incredibly high concentrations of it on here, for example. So this is as opaque as it can get. But you have that complete control when you mix it yourself. So in conclusion, I highly recommend Bayferrox 110. And if you don't buy this pigment, then at least I recommend mixing your own pigments, definitely, because if when you buy the pre-mixed stuff, you get ripped off. They save on the pigment and they put in some other crap that makes the colors look dull in these pre-mixed paints. And you don't realize that if you're a normie, because you just, that's what you used to. You never had the luxury experience of mixing your own pigments. They hardly sell it anywhere. It's like this real soil that I also have shown so many times. The Lacusa pond, nobody buys it but me. And nobody mixes their own pigment but me around here. And nobody's gonna care about my review either. I know it's gonna get 20 views, but it's the truth. This is luxury, and it's cheaper than buying the premixed stuff because you save by buying your own pigment in bulk and then mixing it yourself. And the result is so much better. It even cures bad philosophy. I mean, if your mind has been addled by people like Daniel Dennett and Keith Frankish who tell you colors don't exist, that qualia don't exist, that phenomenal consciousness is an illusion, well, mixing your own pigment is a cure for illusionism, because the colors become so vivid you realize there's just no way they can be an illusion. This is the real thing. This is what I recommend.